Hey everyone, welcome back. We have an absolutely massive winter storm developing that is going to bring a wide range of dangerous weather conditions across a large portion of the United States. This system is shaping up to be one of the most impactful storms of the season, packing heavy snow, significant ice accumulations, widespread flash flooding, and a serious severe weather outbreak, including the potential for strong tornadoes. There is a lot to cover, so I'll be walking you through everything step by step, breaking down the latest forecast details, tracking the storm's path, and giving you all the information you need to stay ahead of this dangerous weather event. If you are new to the channel, now is the perfect time to subscribe so you never miss an important weather update. Also, if you find this forecast helpful, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and share it with your family, friends, and on social media. These storms are no joke, and getting the word out can make a real difference in keeping people safe. Now let's jump into the forecast. The coldest air in North America is currently positioned over southwest Canada and the northern plains, and it is already making its way southward into the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Nebraska. Temperatures in these regions are plummeting into the single digits and even below zero, with wind chills making it feel much colder. Some places are already experiencing wind chills of the 15 to F or even lower. This is dangerously cold air, and for anyone venturing outside, you're going to want to layer up and take precautions against frostbite and hypothermia. Across the western states, including Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, we are also seeing widespread freezing temperatures, while further south, places like Phoenix and Southern California are still hanging on to milder weather in the 70s. Over in the eastern U.S., the coldest temperatures are locked in over New England, particularly in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York, where afternoon highs are struggling to get out of the teens. Moving south into the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic, temperatures are a bit more moderate, hovering in the 30s and 40s, but the biggest contrast is down near the Gulf Coast, where parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida are experiencing temperatures in the 70s and 80s, with South Florida even pushing into the low 90s. This sharp contrast between bitter cold to the north and unseasonably warm air to the south is creating the perfect setup for a powerful storm system that is expected to intensify rapidly as it tracks across the country. The developing low-pressure system is currently strengthening over Arkansas and will continue deepening as it moves into Kentucky by tonight. By the time it reaches western New York on Sunday afternoon, it will have dropped to 970 TUM, a sign of an extremely strong system. When a storm system strengthens this quickly, it almost always brings a mix of intense winter weather, severe thunderstorms, and widespread flooding, and that's exactly what we are looking at with this storm. On the warm side of the system, a significant severe weather outbreak is likely. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued an enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 for a broad area stretching from western Tennessee and southeastern Arkansas down through much of Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, extending all the way into the Florida Panhandle. However, the severe weather threat actually reaches even farther, impacting areas as far north as Kentucky, as far west as East Texas, and as far east as Georgia and the Carolinas. The main threat with these storms will be widespread damaging winds with gusts reaching 60 to 75 MP, especially in portions of Mississippi and Alabama, where the risk of destructive winds is highest. Along with the wind threat, there is a very concerning tornado risk with a 10 chance of tornadoes, including the potential for strong F2 to F5 tornadoes. The highest risk for these dangerous tornadoes includes areas like southeast Arkansas, northeast Louisiana, much of Mississippi, and parts of southwest Tennessee and Alabama. The biggest concern with this system is that some of these tornadoes could be nocturnal, meaning they will occur after sunset, making them even more difficult to see and more dangerous for those caught off guard. Another major problem with this storm is the flash flooding risk, particularly from Kentucky down through northwest Tennessee and northeast Arkansas. This system is expected to dump 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour, with storms continuously training over the same areas. This will create a high risk of flash flooding, which is something we don't see issued very often. If you live in a flood-prone area, make sure you have a plan in place and be ready to move to higher ground if necessary. As we move into the evening, a dangerous squall line will develop, bringing widespread damaging winds, tornadoes, and some large hail. This squall line will track eastward overnight, impacting major cities like Nashville, Huntsville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Mobile, Hattiesburg, Gulfport, and New Orleans by midnight. By early Sunday morning, the line of storms will push into Atlanta, Knoxville, Asheville, Montgomery, and Panama City, continuing through the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, and Florida throughout the day. On the cold side of the storm, heavy snow and significant ice accumulations are expected, The heaviest snowfall totals will be in northern Pennsylvania, western New York, and parts of Ontario and Quebec, where some areas could see up to 20 inches of snow. At the same time, an ice storm is also developing, with up to a quarter inch of ice accumulation possible in New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. Even parts of the Midwest, including Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois, could see a light glaze of ice, making roads extremely dangerous. Beyond this storm, a brutal Arctic blast is coming early next week, bringing some of the coldest temperatures of the season. A powerful dip in the jet stream will allow bitterly cold air to spill down from Hudson Bay, sending temperatures 20 to 40 degrees below normal across much of the country. Some areas in the plains and Midwest could see morning lows plunging to 20 def or even colder, and the wind chills will be even worse. Even cities as far south as Dallas, Little Rock, and Oklahoma City could experience wind chills of 20 def, and areas like Chicago and Minneapolis could see wind chills as low as E40 def. The biggest threat today is damaging winds. We're expecting widespread, numerous damaging winds as a line of thunderstorms moves through the region. This line could bring strong winds and even some tornadoes. You should definitely be securing any outdoor items that could be blown around, like lawn chairs or trampolines, and make sure your windows are protected if you live in a vulnerable area. The hail threat is lower than the wind and tornado risks, but there is still a possibility of larger hail, especially in areas where storms are forming first, such as Arkansas, western Mississippi, and northern Louisiana. When it comes to tornadoes, the risk today is increasing, with the 10-hatch tornado risk zone now extending all the way down to the Gulf Coast, including southern parts of Alabama and Mississippi. This was a late addition as it wasn't initially included in the higher tornado risk zones. The tornado threat also extends through Memphis, Tennessee, southwestern Tennessee, eastern Louisiana, and southeast Arkansas. If you're in these areas, make sure you're prepared for tornadoes, whether they come from the main line of storms or from any supercells that might develop ahead of it. As we move into the afternoon, the main line of storms will likely start to develop across parts of Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. By around 4 or 5 p.m., this line will really start to organize, and we'll see the risk for damaging winds ramp up, especially across Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. There's also a chance that we could see some discrete cells form ahead of the main line, which would increase the tornado risk even further. If we get enough instability and wind shear, we could see some isolated tornadoes, maybe even as far north as central Tennessee. As the evening progresses, this line of storms will continue moving eastward, and by 9 or 10 p.m., it will be pushing through Nashville, central and southern Kentucky, eastern Mississippi, and northwest Alabama. The tornado threat will continue into the night, especially along the Gulf Coast. If you're in these areas, keep a close eye on the weather, and if you live near the coast, be aware that we could see tornadoes into the early hours of Sunday morning. By Sunday morning, the line of storms will be pushing eastward, and while it will weaken a bit as it moves into parts of Virginia and the Carolinas, there could still be some isolated tornado risk in these areas, though it's much lower. For the Florida Panhandle in southern Georgia, there could still be a risk of severe storms, including damaging winds and even a brief tornado. Sunday afternoon, there will be a very isolated tornado risk in parts of central and northern Florida as well. So if you're in these areas, be sure to stay aware. Aside from the severe weather, this storm will also bring a major snowstorm to the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. By the time we get into tonight, areas like Michigan and the Northeast will start seeing heavy snow. There's even a chance of freezing rain and sleet in a narrow corridor from eastern Missouri to Long Island. As we head into Sunday morning, the heaviest snow will be in eastern Michigan, Ohio, and northern Kentucky, where some areas could see up to 12 inches of snow. This will make for treacherous travel conditions, so if you're heading out, be sure to take it slow. Northern New England is also going to get a lot of snow, with some locations possibly seeing 8 to 12 inches and as much as 18 inches in parts of northern Maine. Unfortunately, we're also dealing with a significant flooding risk. Areas in western Kentucky, Tennessee, and northern Arkansas are seeing heavy rainfall, and the flood threat is getting worse by the hour. A widespread 3 to 5 inches of rain is expected in these areas, and some places could see as much as 8 inches. That could easily lead to dangerous flooding, especially in low-lying areas, so be sure to take precautions if you live in these regions. Looking ahead, after this storm system moves through, we're expecting a major Arctic blast to roll in next week, bringing some of the coldest temperatures we've seen in years. Areas in the Great Plains could see temperatures 40 to 50 degrees below average, and that cold will spread eastward by Friday and Saturday. In addition to that, we've got another winter storm headed our way midweek. with heavy snow and potentially another nor'easter developing late Wednesday into Thursday. It could bring heavy snow and blizzard conditions to parts of New England. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that as well. So that's a lot to keep track of, and it's going to be a very busy few days in terms of weather. If you're in any of the affected areas, make sure you've got a plan in place and are staying up to date on the latest information. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any live updates or future videos as we track this storm system and the Arctic blast coming next week. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon.